All right, it's Thursday, July 20th. This is an end of the day SPY recap, and today we have a two down bar. Held the midpoint of the prior day, took out the lows of the prior day, and moved down to our targets, which I'll get to in a second. We closed red. So we are anticipating, given this close, that we follow through a little bit lower tomorrow. Doesn't mean it has to happen. It's also an actionable signal back to the upside. If somehow we, hold the if we open up with the pre-market range above the midpoint of today and start up, then this is and we get a two up day, then we're having an actionable signal to reach that high on Wednesday, and that would allow this weekly chart to resume back up and close pretty strong green and follow through higher. In the same, in another sense, we're expecting lower on the day, and this could and if we stay below the midpoint of today, which is kind of our expectation to start, we head lower and get a two down day. This is kind of a compound outside bar of this green bar. That would be our next target down there. And what's interesting there, you start playing the if this happens, then that kind of analysis. If we head down here tomorrow and hit our targets, that's going to close, and hold down there. Then all of a sudden, the weekly chart, is going to look like a hammer bar, which would mean the next week we would anticipate a little lower into this week, and possibly, if we end up with a big hammer bar, maybe a red bar by the end of Friday, then we get we're anticipating a two down week, and we see if we start reaching towards those targets. And if you really want to get far ahead of yourself, obviously on the monthly chart, I've been talking about how here are the next targets to the upside, especially on the quarterly chart. So we have 3 months to get there. July, August, and September, and this is just the first month, July here, half a month. So we have plenty of time to get there. Maybe if we get that reversal on the weekly chart and then that turns lower into next week and we get below the open and turn this red, maybe we have to get a two down monthly bar into August, and maybe we don't get, we kind of hold. It's a fair value gap you can see developing here. Maybe in August we have all kinds of choppiness and hold, and then start up into September with a more of a two up bar. So we have some exhaustion risk on the monthly chart, even though we have that target up there. It's just at this point a continuation target if everything continues, and everything's continuing until the weekly chart turns, and we're getting close to that. So tomorrow's kind of an important day. Do we just kind of hold this area, resume back up, stay green, and work continuing higher? Or do we end up with a kind of a shooter bar that then looks to follow through lower into the next week? And that's all going to depend on kind of what happens tomorrow. But the important thing today was that there was pretty good anticipation that you were going to head lower, and specifically to fill this fair value gap if you did head lower. That's what yesterday's price action kind of forecasted. I described that in the recap video. And today, if you look at the pre-market range, the blue upper blue line, lower blue line, we were below. We opened up kind of already below yesterday's low to give us a two down day, and we were inside of that range with the first bar to the upside. So if we would have wanted to buy today, we would have had to be above this midpoint, above get opening price action above that, and then see if it followed through to take out those highs. Instead, we just kind of started up a little bit on the first move of the day, had that pause bar on bar two. I shot a video, kind of a midday update video. This was a good sell in here, came down, took out the pre-market lows, and at that point, we were looking to see, is that going to be liquidity, and we immediately pop up. But we kind of went pretty far below that before we started to rally. So now you're in a down environment, and you had the first push of the day, and then we started rallying. And again, it's tricky, pretty choppy. Actually, this whole area was almost there's a fair value gap here, and there's a fair value gap up here, and price essentially worked its way higher. You didn't know at this point if it was going to make maybe a push down and a failure move and then back up, or what was going to happen. But you had the big red bar here, so that was kind of your secondary sell to take out the lows of the day. We did that, and then we moved all the way to our target, which I drew in as a purple line. That was kind of the bottom of that fair value gap. So coming into today, if we had the two down day, I was anticipating we had the potential to fill in this target, and maybe even a lot lower than that. As it turned out, we had the first push down, pull back, red bar, second push down, and we reached our target, and then we're holding. So we closed with a red bar today. I'm anticipating lower. This could set sort of a chain reaction to close lower for the week, which would then anticipate more lower action into next week. We have some fair value gaps to fill. Who knows if that's going to possibly even turn this monthly chart red at that point. Let's say we end up with a kind of a shooter bar here in the month before it ends, then maybe you're anticipating a little lower into August to fill this gap. So a lot of things are developing, but you're just going to have to let price action lead the way. So today was a nice actionable signal to the downside. I think there is an actionable signal to the upside on one, in one sense, if we get up there, but there's also, if we head lower, I see potential, continuation into a lot of areas down here. So I'll go either way. And, at the moment, I'm biased to the downside, and we'll see what happens. So the good news is we're getting some good volatility in here with the, up and down price action. It's not as if we're in this, where it was back in here, we had all this choppiness day after day after day, and there's a little chop. Right now, we're just getting good directional price movement where price is kind of going, when it breaks the lows, it's heading to its target. When it breaks the highs, it's heading to its target. We're getting nice continuation. So it's a good environment right now with a lot of volatility to kind of take advantage of this, depending where price opens and opening price action and some of the expectations. So I'll end there. The expectations are to continue lower. We're going to see tomorrow, big day on Friday. If you sense we're going to close red on Friday, then the weekly chart is going to look pretty vulnerable into next week, and so on and so forth. So let's see what happens tomorrow with the expectations to at least test lower. If we do, we should be, getting below the outs, this bar here, which is these three bars would be a compound broadening action of this green bar. And there are definitely gaps down here to fill. So I'm just, until we really break above the midpoint of this bar, I'm going to be biased to the downside going forward here and just really see what unfolds as this month comes to an end and maybe into August. So good day today to the short side. Let's see what unfolds starting tomorrow.